Hello. Today we are dancing with Emil Ertl.
Hello.
We met, well, you said we met not 5 years ago, I guess, 7 years ago.
Yeah, or maybe even 8.
Yeah, exactly, when you started the BA here at, what was then DOC? No. Yeah. Eskohor, so Stockholm University of the Arts now. But you approached me, you were like, I don't know how you approached me, but you were like, what's anarchism? This is what I remember. And then we laughed a lot.
Yeah.
And we spent a lot of time together in the woods.
Yeah.
Cut that out. No. We spent a lot of time talking about choreography and life, the universe, and everything. But if people don't know you, how do you describe yourself after my poor introduction?
Hello. Nice to be here. I feel like this is what you have to say in the beginning of a podcast.
And you can say your name properly.
Yeah, my name is Emil Ertl, and I'm a dancer, mostly. Dancer and performer. And I live in Berlin, but I'm often here in Stockholm. Mm-hmm. What else?
I mean, it's whatever. I mean, I know that there is these, what do you call it, like standardized bios.
Yeah.
But you kind of got them all. I mean, it's very much, I think the thing that I'm interested in is like, where are you now?
Yeah.
Very like process oriented.
Yeah.
Invitation towards self as much as anything.
Yeah.
So, and in that vein, what are we going to do? Like, what are you busy with?
Yeah. So when I was on the Tunnelbana on my way here, I thought about what am I busy with. And as I feel like, I guess as all like freelance artists, I'm busy with a lot of things in the same time that like happen in different places, but of course in my own like body and practice they overlap. And like scores that I do in other people's work overlap with my own, and I bring my own into other people's work. So I mean that anyway happens, which I also really enjoy. But then I kind of like collected a bit the things that I feel are fun right now. And I brought a score. I made it for today.
Great. I mean, it's perfect. It's exactly what the podcast's about.
Which is called Raging Slugs.
Raging Slugs.
In Response and Response.
In Response and Response.
Yes. Nice. So, what that means is... maybe I talk later after where it's coming from. Yeah. Like references. Yeah. And for now I just explain the score. Yeah. So basically it's a improvisational score that instead of doing like call and response, we're doing response and response. And the mode we're gonna do that in is as Raging Slugs. And so thinking of the slug as something that absorbs, no? Like it absorbs. I just imagine it when the slug like moves through like cracks. I imagine it being very like sensitive to textures. And for so that way we like absorb like whatever we like physically touch, but then also what we hear, what we feel, what we see, what we fantasize. Like it can go in whatever dimension, and we respond to that.
Okay.
And then we respond to the response and so on. And raging, because we're not only... this is bad that there's no video.
No, you're doing amazing movements. Yeah. just so the listener knows, Emil is now moving the arms and the legs.
So we're...
But you were saying about the response of the response.
Exactly, response to the response, and raging, because I guess that it's not as in we're like absorbing passively in quotation marks, absorbing, but there is also like it doesn't have to mean raging in the sense of like the like emotional rage, but more a certain, I don't know, it just puts another taste in it.
There's a reflective quality, perhaps?
Yeah.
There's sort of encountering.
Yes.
That's maybe the rage, maybe?
Yeah. Yeah, also.
I like that. So, responding to the response as this raging slug. The slug being something that absorbs, did you say? Mm-hmm. The different textures and encounters that it has and responds to them, but also responds to the response. There's something about an expansion of textures away from like physical matter, material, but also maybe psychological, theoretical, maybe thought-based, which is where the response becomes an extra texture, perhaps, as well.
Yes.
Okay,
correct.
That's clear. Then we'll do this for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, half an hour, 6 hours until tomorrow. No, we do it for a bit of time.
For, I think 10 minutes is super.
Great.
Maybe 11.
Yeah, 11's nice. All right, we'll come back in a minute.
Bye.
All right, thank you. So that was amazing. How shall we do this? Shall we jump? Do you want to go through the references, or shall we jump into reflections and do the references in a minute? Or
maybe we can share like quick experience,
and
then I can do the references.
Yeah. So quick,
tiny.
Like there's something where, like towards the end, I was really noticing like one gets not trapped, but it's like a really interesting state between being in the response of the response and responding to the response. That somehow I start to want to be consequential for like where I exist, where I found myself, and where I found myself and what I found myself to be, in a way, especially because it has this overarching sort of name of the raging slug, which is this sort of what's nice is that it allows for like to just and be down with the ground and not move much, but at the same time the rage is sort of how does one deal with the conditions one finds oneself in, and that was really intense in a lot of ways, but really generous as well, to have like a space to contend with those things. Like I noticed, like when I would throw out a movement, I would really be like, oh, why did I do that? Like like in trying to respond to it, it's like where is it coming from? What was its need? What was its result? And like there was a lot of like unpacking, and there was a rage sort of came from that sort of like, how do I deal with this actually? What are my tools? So
the responding for you became also like a questioning.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Definitely. But that might be just me.
Yeah. Maybe, because for me, I think...
Yeah, what was it for you?
I thought about that for me, I think the response and response, I thought about that. It's interesting that you would think that responding to something is like, you know, it's not an action because you're just responding.
Right. Yeah.
But actually, it's completely activating. Like it means to be in activation to whatever is happening. And this for me is like a generative state. I guess for me what happened more was that it created this like, okay, next, constantly changing.
Yeah, because the response is the response to the response.
Exactly.
Like, yeah.
But I think I also respond more, I don't know how to say.
Immediate, maybe?
Immediate, yeah. I don't respond so much with actual words in my head.
Yeah.
I can respond maybe with like a face or a movement or change of position.
Yeah, you finished with an amazing face. Like the alarm went off and I looked up and you were on top of the bar with a shot. Open mouth, like, and I was like, there's the slug.
Yeah, I was shocked that it was over already. I was like, we just started.
I know what you mean. I think for me, I was there definitely at the beginning. I think maybe because of the podcast.
Yeah.
Because I was towards the end starting to think about the reflecting on the responding. So then I was starting to create a meta, and maybe that's where the questions actually came from. Because there was definitely a very like caring and sort of like clear space just to be and to allow those responses. But the rage is interesting, I think.
Yeah.
And I'd be curious how that manifested in you.
So now comes the references.
Okay, great.
Because, as I said, it's like knitted together from different practices. And I think in one work I'm doing with two colleagues, Neely and Iokasti Mantzog. Hi.
You wish they were here.
Miss you. No, we were working this beginning of this year in January. We started working around very generally, starting from the point of rage and care, and like opposition, but actually not at all opposition. And in this work, we I think the score Raging Slugs came there, but I think we all three have pretty different ideas of what it is, and what we did now isn't what we did.
Yeah, for sure.
Then, but that's where I think we said this name.
Oh right, okay, yeah. The words raging.
Yes.
Slug. Yeah.
And then I think in that context it was something very like a mass of heaviness moving through the space with like deep rage. But that's where that comes from. And the let me think. Okay, I will just finish the reference thing first. And I feel like the slug, I mean, it's one of my favorite animals. So it comes up.
Pointing to the tattoo.
Yes, thank you. So it comes up. I think it came up already in a work by my friend Tchivett, that we were slugs. And I just find it I was thinking about it also when we started now, that it's such a, for me it immediately like shifts my mode of attention. I think that like something It's so hard not to be able to only talk.
Yeah.
But yes, it shifts my mode of attention immediately to have a slug, to like transform into a slug.
Yeah.
And the way I take in the world, I guess.
Yeah.
But that's that. And then the thing of like, and then I also thought with this texture thing that comes from a work I did with Onur Agbaba. Hi. Where we worked with wrinkles and folds and cracks. And we had like there it was very concrete that we had like a piece of fabric and we would take in the texture of like where there was wrinkles and take those as a score for moving. And I think that I also took in now. Yeah.
So the and it also relates a little bit to that absorbent quality. You could say inclusive as well. Like and that somehow echoes for me what you were speaking about, care and rage being sort of similar in some way, in some fashion. Like to take care is an act of passion, sort of thing. Like to actually step outside of the sort of continuing of things, and to take time for something outside of that somehow.
It's actually a full circle moment because so I think the question I asked you when we met wasn't what is anarchy, but do you have like texts on anarchy or something?
True.
And you sent me one text.
Oh yeah.
On like self-care.
Yeah.
Like what's the title? Do you know?
No, but I can find it. Maybe leave it in the.
Yeah. And we had this text a lot in that work around care and rage. We had this a lot as a.
Yeah. Because I mean, one of the arguments I don't fully remember. Maybe you do, but is something like care can be violent if it's not asked for, as well, right?
Yeah, it was kind of talking about how like self-care in a capitalist system is a lot like things that are pacifying, are like calming down a nervous system. Like it's a lot like to go into
a non-aggressive
mode. Yeah. But then I mean one thing was that like so-called self-care, like can it also be care for others? Isn't that the same? And then like is that also like coming together, I don't know, doing, I mean, I guess demonstrating. Or
and so then there's like a provocation almost in like trying to practice a raging slug of wanting to make that political, you know, and make it a sort of manifestation, or to engage in it in a way of trying to emancipate oneself from the sort of like conditions that were sort of imposed upon. That makes sense.
And then I mean and then I think the response there was something
Well, you were saying before, like how you have many influences working as a freelancer. And I wondered if it came from there, in the sense of like, how does one deal with actually always being in the role of responder? And how do your responses become manifest? To speak in that language as well, of like rage being the political manifestation, maybe, or the demonstration. How does the dancer's knowledge, because you use that title, right? And then, how does that become authorship in a way? Have like an authorial nature, perhaps, like. And there's something about the slug, which is slightly undefined as an object, as a creature. especially when you say that it's very absorbent.
Yeah.
You know, there's this ambiguity between where it begins and ends.
Yeah.
It always leaves like the slug trail.
Exactly.
Right?
I was also just thinking about that. That it's funny that I was like, it's absorbing, but actually it's also just like leaving a lot of traces.
Yeah, yeah. And I wonder how it consumes as well. Do you know? Is it like
It eats.
It has a mouth.
I think as a child I took them and I had them, kept them as pets.
Yeah, yeah. You were a sanctuary for slugs.
Yeah, you could call it that. If you were nice. Prison. No, but if I remember correctly, I think that I put salad leaves, and they have something. Yes,
yeah.
They have a little mouth.
But it's also that just the ambiguity is clear.
Yeah,
like we're not sure how they're consuming, and then also we're not sure what they're leaving behind. Like, is it a part of them, or is it something else, like a residue? Like what is the slime, so to speak?
They would need to invite a biologist.
But in the terms of the practice, it works as a great metaphor, maybe, for breaking with the stability of concept, maybe, or something like that. So that when the responder responding, or the dancer can claim materiality, which isn't as sort of like nameable, maybe, as other materials.
How do you mean that?
So like when we refer to like the ownership of a dance, it's often attributed to the person who's choreographing it, or we transform the dancer into a choreographer for them in order for them to own it, right? So I think in relationship to that, like, can a dancer remain a dancer and still own the dance they're dancing? I mean, what is that material then? Like, how do we substantialize it? And does it break maybe with our understanding of ownership? And so in that same sense of like, I think that's maybe where I got to a little bit, is like, what am I responding to? Like how can I understand it as a material in itself?
The response.
A bit like when a movement happens when I'm practicing with you now, am I fully in control of it? Like how, or are there other influences that are causing me to be with that? And how can I take care of? Funny, I use that word. Take care of my relationship to my influence over my own decisions, maybe. Which is a crazy thing to think about in a way. It's very meta.
It's like, how do you move through the world?
But how do you move through the world as someone who maybe is being moved through the world, like unknown, unlike chosen? You know, we're influenced by so many things, and our bodies are almost like the slugs of your time, incarcerated by they're sort of held by so many frames and other people's demands and expectations, and they're embodied and internalized. The sort of biopolitics of our being, sort of existing in that like thing. And then how do we still appreciate our autonomy and our freedom?
I guess it deals with that.
And I think maybe that's the thing that you're expressing, is like, it allows you to forget about it somehow, and just to be in it. And
I mean, I feel like to bring it, or I guess it's about that like conversation between which I mean is a big question to like, what is, from where am I taking decisions, or where's my agency? But I guess to bring it just to like in the studio.
Yeah.
I think that sometimes in practices I have this experience that like there is a lot of instructions of like take in.
Yes.
And sometimes I feel extremely stuck in that. I'm like, whoa, where to? I can't take more in. And then I guess that's why also the raging is important.
Yeah.
That it's not just slugs, but they're raging, so that there is like a certain, maybe it's also like a punk attitude of like, all right.
Yeah.
Of activation.
Yeah.
I think that.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that something that you describe sounds so opposite. That like going into the like
the matter of it.
Yeah, and the void of. But if I don't know.
The questioning.
Yeah. And then when for me it produces like the opposite.
Yeah.
Okay, I just do. Or maybe it's also that I feel like I don't know how, where am I, who am I? Well, anyway, how does the floor feel?
Yeah.
Okay, it feels hard. Then I'm gonna bounce against it.
Yeah.
Oh, now I see your face.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. No, and I mean, I don't know if I'm painting it correctly, but that thing you speak about of like just so many influences. Like I'm full. Like how can my response be credited for existing?
Yes.
And how can I rely on that? And without like the sort of like the sort of like simplistic opposing, like the opposition sort of thing, like now we're collective, no one has any ideas, no one idea is thing, but to stay with like, no, I want to be influenced, I want to use the floor, I want it to sort of color me, I want to be colored by all those things, like to not pretend that they're not important or not part of it, but to rage within it, maybe to rage inside the complexity. Because sometimes when we make those political statements which produces an opposition, we find ourselves in a sort of a desert of possibility, because we've thrown everything out, when in fact it's not. It's too complex, it's too entwined for us to throw everything out. We have to somehow work within it, and our resistance. And that's perhaps why there's almost a contradiction in the term of raging slug, in a way. Yeah. The slugs are sort of passive, bringing everything in. The raging is an active
exactly
being with those things.
Yeah. That's why it's interesting.
It is really interesting. I loved doing it. It was really beautiful. And you also played some really beautiful music as well.
Yeah.
And it was really nice being in the studio. You were saying how like, I haven't been here in so long and stuff. And it was kind of nice. I was imagining like, I wonder what you're thinking of these chairs, these walls, this mirror.
Like memory.
Yeah. Like just by touching the textures almost, like, because it's been a long time. And then I was dealing with like, this music, what is it? Where is it from? Why was this the choice?
I also thought about that.
Yeah.
I also asked myself, why was that the choice? Because because it was very heavy somehow.
Yeah, accordion.
Yeah, accordion, very repetitive. I put it in the queue 5 times or something because it's a very short track, but I really love it.
Yeah, it was very nice.
Yeah.
No, and of course loads of references come up with that as well.
Yeah.
I think of a sort of Eastern European, folkish like music. Super beautiful.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it's from, I have to double check this.
Yeah.
But I think that it's from either Austria or Bavaria, where I'm from.
Yeah, so not so far. We all play the accordion.
But something, because of the thing of
layering. I'm trying to translate some of the movements for the listener.
Thank you.
Because it's a lot. You really communicate very physically. It's
I know.
Kind of
I'm really
to
bad
put you in
guest
this kind of format of only audio. I mean, and that's why I like it, because it's a little bit like close your eyes.
Yeah.
I struggled with having my eyes open a lot, actually. I remember bringing that up.
I really, like, you wanted to close them.
Yeah, I wanted to go.
Did you?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. No, I knew that it was possible, but I was also aware, like, I should be able to respond to visual stimuli just as much as internal.
But I guess there is something, if you want to tune in with your senses, there is a feeling that it's easier to do that with eyes closed.
Yeah. Just like tuning into what is actually happening in the practice. We only use the verbal or the sound. This is why we do a podcast. That's my argument.
Why? How do you mean that?
Because like if we were to make a video now, would we be able to show what we really want to do, or is the struggle of not having the visual means that we have to work in different ways to try and meet with like what we were actually doing and what was important?
I mean, that's interesting, because I guess there is also a difference in reflecting on something or trying to make someone understand what it is. Like, it's kind of somehow 2 different things.
Yeah. I guess to make someone understand what something is implicit in the proposal.
Reflection. Yeah.
Of like, it's a podcast for the public.
Yeah.
Whereas, if we were just reflecting, it would... But still, we would want each other to understand.
Yes, what we were doing.
But we have the visual. We can see each other. Just so you know, at home, we are in the same room.
In the same room. No, but because we were talking about the thing about being a freelancer, being in different projects, like dealing with different scores and proposals. And I really love that. I feel like a world opens for me if I meet someone's proposal, because I guess it's that thing of responding that for me it's an activation and a conversation happens then. And I think that I also somehow find a lot of I guess it also depends what score and what, I don't know, I'm not dancing a lot in works where I, like, I don't know, have to do my leg on 7 and then a turn on 8, and like that
the
is a lot
material
of
is not so set.
fun to, it's more, usually not, I mean, of course, also set sometimes, but so I guess it depends also what style you're doing, but I had to think of something that Martin Sonderkamp, who is also here in this building sometimes.
And you also studied with him before
in Cologne, And he once said, and this, I kept it with me and I do it all the time, that he once said that he was dancing, I'm sure it's okay that I share this, that he was dancing in a piece and he had a score and he had performed it many times, and then I don't know, one of the performances, he was like, I'm so bored of this score. And it was a solo, that part of the piece. And he just did a completely different score. And obviously no one noticed. But just he had a better time. And got interested in the work again. And I think this, it's like secret pleasures to weave in. And this I do a lot too, to weave in whatever I find in material as motivation, as like underlying scores that, and somehow there is also something exciting about that only I know. As long as it's like within the parameters and words of what we're doing in that setting.
And it really speaks to something about what is freedom and how does it manifest. Like, because there's clearly a need from your side to be a part of someone's score. Yeah. But at the same time, to have your own way of being a part of it. I actually been trying to identify or like think about, and it's very simplistic. I'm no researcher really, but like that how we're taught through set material and choreography, and we're sort of taught that choreography can be set. Yeah. And then we're taught like the opposite to choreography is improvisation. So you have this sort of like binary opposition, but improvisation is often framed through the codes and the codification that's created in the choreography, the set material. Yeah. So it can be really daunting for people. But the more I think we've realized how ridiculous both the idea of complete improvisation and complete set material is, the more we've found this middle ground where we devise contracts between the social group, like between the choreographer and the institution and the audience maybe, and the different performers within which we can live. Yeah. And we devise them and we call them scores. Yeah. I think this is, and I think it's a very different articulation. Like it's not set material and it's not improvisation, but it's a sort of like way of working on an agreement together, and we have to keep on renewing it and refreshing it. Yeah. And sometimes that space is given by the choreographer to renew it, and sometimes they don't give it. And then, like with Martin, where he's like, oh no, okay, now I need to maybe, I'm speaking for Martin, I don't know, but now I need to make my own contract for myself to stay sane within this. Yeah. But at least there was the space to do that. Yeah. But how the contracts function with each other, because I find that sometimes choreographing. Yeah. And you've choreographed as well, like you're not immune to it.
Whoops.
Oh dear.
I guess that happened.
No, like I find that when choreographing, sometimes I don't know what the result is. Yeah. I just know it's sort of like a world within which I would like us to work, and I try to develop a sort of code around it, and I think less and less I know. I don't know what it should look like. I don't know what should be done. So, and that can be really difficult for many when people are asking it. But what am I meant to do? What should it look like? Yeah. You know. And that, I mean, maybe also that's just me not being a great choreographer. But I think there's a little bit of a crisis around the concept of choreography and where dance exists within it.
And I mean, with these questions, that also often is so tricky, because I guess there is really choreographers that maybe you don't actually have a vision of what the dance should look like. But then I think sometimes also we do have a vision, but maybe we don't have a language to talk about that. Yeah. And then it's being like talked through very abstract ways, and you're just trying to get through like but was it good or bad? Or
yeah. Give me something.
like bigger,
yeah.
smaller, more turns.
I could do more turns.
Like where I find that it's sometimes also helpful to come down to
practicality.
Yes, somehow. But yeah, I guess then there's a like dilemma.
Yeah, like a dilemma when the contracts.
Yeah, a dilemma that maybe if you work. Yeah, I guess a dilemma within like questions of agency, of freedom, of I don't know what one should call it, but like that you. I guess if the like claims that it's that you want to consider the dancers like artists that have their own like make their own choices, but then also I mean but then if you choreograph a piece, obviously you also maybe want them to move a certain way, and then I feel like this is something I was thinking a lot about while I was studying here.
I know, I brought it back.
Yes, crazy. And I haven't thought about it so much anymore. Apparently in Berlin, people tell you what to do.
Or it's just not a question. Yeah, it's like a quagmire that we're stuck in. Or I'm stuck in. That I'm like replicating.
No, but it's interesting.
But you still have the slug. And you have the rage. And you have the responding to the response.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I think that's also something.
Yeah.
Sorry, like to keep on it a little bit longer. Like maybe it's also that that we figure these things out through doing.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that I'm really aware of is that when we think of dance as resistance. It doesn't matter whether it's set or not set, because it's still resisting something.
Yeah.
Because we don't move the way we move when we dance. Even if we're doing pedestrian movement, it's orchestrated and configured in a way, or it has a certain concentration or attention that it challenges a lot of conventions, choreographic conventions that the body is usually placed under. And so it's always in the doing. So yeah, we can think and think and think, but maybe in Berlin you're just doing.
Really spreading lies.
No one thinks in Berlin? Whoa. I'm joking. We'll make this podcast only accessible in Stockholm.
Censored.
Do you have any last things you want to say?
Is it the end?
No, it's just the beginning.
Oh wait, I need a but I mean I find all of these I guess it is a lot about also about like that it's impossible to translate from language to movement, and that's just so good.
Yeah.
Because then the conversation happens in that, and like I was just thinking that even I mean like if I move and then I write, the writing tries to do what the movement does, but it doesn't, and then vice versa. But I guess in the in-between is like really also like a space of potentiality. And that I also love these moments that when you're working and you call something, or you're like making a score and everyone's like, what is this for you? Or that like,
Yeah. No, I think you say it well. I mean, it's really this, passing from the thing. Like, just finding ways to continue to be with the doing.
Yeah.
In some way. And articulating it in different ways. And I have no idea of what it's like in Berlin, so I hope none of this comes across as judgmental or anything.
No, it's also not like I'm only in Berlin. Like.
Yeah, right. But it's such a pleasure to meet with your thinking and dancing.
Same.
It was nice to slug with you. I hope we do it again.
Same.
I hope we do it
Let's
in a
do
different
that.
way as well.
Yeah.
Less podcasty, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows?
Yes.
There's a whole life ahead of us, hopefully. Knock on wood. Hey,
I just remembered something, but maybe it's too late now.
Go. It's never too late.
No, I just thought about with the response and a response that you also have this thing called question.
Yeah.
Like that is
questions,
no answers.
Yeah.
Bit similar, but the opposite.
Yeah. Exactly. Because then it would be just answers.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, it's true. And maybe that's why I've stuck in questions.
It's true.
I also had a practice which was like, and now we're just extending the podcast, but like an echoing practice where you try to remember what the body is doing and then replicate what it was doing and then continue that echoing feedback.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Which I was wondering if it did have similar qualities for me at the beginning, of course.
Like an echo.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
was that a twitch? How can I replicate that?
Mm.
What can I replicate? What I replicated? Can I replicate what I think I replicated? I replicated it. Blah blah blah. It's like a
Inception.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like the film. It's such a pleasure to play with you.
Yes.
It always feels so relatable. If people want to meet you and your work, see what you're up to with all these amazing collaborators, I hope we can write them down and put them in the description.
Yeah, I will do that.
Where do people go? You have an Instagram, is that good?
Yeah,
you have a website, right?
Professional.
You have an address. You can knock on your door.
So my phone number. No, I have a website. We can write it in. It's emilertl.com.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instagram handle is a little bit more complex. It's mc/maux.
Yeah.
For no reason.
But people can follow you if they're interested, right?
Yes.
It's a nice way to get in touch with you. Nice. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This was fun. This was a challenge.
Great.
To talk with no hands. Really. Ask my therapist.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.